For thousands of years, these stones have faced the wind, the rain, and the slow passing of time. They stand in silence, yet their silence speaks louder than any voice that ever echoed across the plains. But behind their stillness lies a question that civilization has failed to answer. How did a prehistoric community, without wheels, without metal cranes, without advanced engineering, lift stones weighing more than the engines that fly airplanes today? And who decided their exact place with such accuracy that even modern instruments find it hard to rival? Every stone tells a story, yet none reveal who placed them there or why. And the deeper we dig, the stranger the truth becomes. Before we step into this mystery, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next uncovering of humanity's forgotten past. The moment you approach the grassy plateau of Salisbury Plain, something feels different. The landscape is wide and open, yet the air carries a weight you can't explain. You sense that the ground beneath your feet holds more than soil. It holds memory. And at the center of that memory stands Stonehenge. Its giant stones arranged in patterns too precise to be accidental, too symbolic to be random. Most archaeological sites whisper stories. Stonehenge refuses to whisper. It insists on being questioned, examined, and challenged. And the first challenge begins with the stones themselves. These massive sarsens, some towering over 20 feet high and weighing up to 25 tons, were transported from locations many miles away. Others, known as bluestones, came from a mountain range more than 150 miles distant, without metal tools, without the wheel, without the heavy machinery we rely on today. And this is where the story stops being a simple puzzle and starts becoming something else entirely. For decades, experts believed these stones were pulled by teams of people using rope, logs, and brute strength. But as the math caught up with the theory, the numbers fell apart. To move even one stone across 150 miles of uneven terrain would require thousands of people, perfect coordination, and a level of social organization that no one believed existed at that time. And even if those thousands of hands worked together, the logistics are staggering. Trees would be cut for rollers. The rollers would break under the weight. Ropes would snap. Mud, rain, uneven ground, and natural obstacles would slow everything down. And if the stones were dragged by sledges along lubricated tracks, the amount of water and manpower needed rises to a scale that defies what we know about Neolithic communities. Yet there the stones stand today, silent proof that someone, somehow, found a way. But the mystery deepens when we uncover another detail. The blue stones found at Stonehenge do not match the stones naturally found near the site. They match formations in the Preseli Hills in Wales. How the builders sourced them, shaped them, lifted them, and transported them is already hard to imagine. But how they navigated river crossings, steep inclines, dense forests, and shifting landscapes raises even greater questions. Some researchers propose the stones travel by rafts through rivers and coastlines. Others suggest they were carried by large groups in slow, steady movements across the land. But each of these explanations leaves behind gaps big enough for doubt to grow. And the doubt grows further when we uncover that Stonehenge's layout itself required understanding of geometry, astronomy, and seasonal cycles. The stones align with the solstices in ways that reveal not guesswork, but intention. They cast shadows in predictable patterns. They frame the rising sun at a perfect angle on the longest day of the year. They mark both life and death, light and darkness, harvest and winter. This is not the work of a group randomly placing stones in a field. This is engineering, planning, knowledge. And knowledge requires a teacher. But who taught them? And where did this knowledge come from? Some archaeologists argue that Stonehenge was built by a highly organized society that understood more than we once assumed. Others believe the knowledge may have been passed down from even older cultures whose traces have been lost time. And then there are those who suggest an even stranger possibility, that the builders learned from travelers or visitors whose identities remain unknown. What we do know is that Stonehenge was not built in one attempt. It evolved. It changed shape. Stones were moved. Arrangements were modified. Sections were added centuries apart. This means generations of people worked on something their ancestors started but never finished. A project with purpose. A vision passed forward through time. A legacy built in layers. But As we peel back these layers, we find something unsettling. The people who built Stonehenge left no written records, no carved messages, no instructions, no explanations. We are left with the stones themselves, standing like ancient guardians of a secret that was never meant to be spoken aloud, a secret built not in a moment, but over centuries. And yet, despite all this, we know they must have coordinated, organized, and planned with a level of skill that rivals early civilizations around the world. Still, a deeper question remains. Why? Why was Stonehenge built at all? Why move stones across impossible distances? Why shape them with precision? Why align them with the sky? Why create something that demanded such sacrifice? Some scholars believe Stonehenge was a temple of the sun. Others think it was a ceremonial burial ground, a place to honor ancestors, a healing center, a calendar, a monument of power, or perhaps all of these at once. But the truth is, no single theory fits perfectly. Every answer leads to more unanswered questions. And then there's the human element. Imagine the determination it took for a community to attempt something of this scale. Imagine the discussions, the disagreements, the failures, and the quiet moments of standing before a massive stone, wondering whether it could ever be moved. Imagine the leaders who inspired belief, the workers who risked injury, the families who watched generations commit to a monument that only the future would understand. What drove them? Was it devotion, fear, curiosity? Or was Stonehenge part of a tradition older than the land itself? A tradition passed from one mysterious culture to another? Whatever the truth is, Stonehenge stands as evidence of a world far more complex than we once believed. A world where early humans were not just hunters or farmers, but thinkers, planners, engineers, and dreamers. Yet even with this understanding, the stones still defy us. Their size, their weight, their journey. Everything about them challenges the limits of what we thought ancient people could achieve. And as long as the mystery remains, the stones continue to watch us, silent and unmoving, daring us to uncover what they refuse to reveal. When we talk about Stonehenge, most people imagine a circle of rocks standing alone on an empty field. But that image is incomplete. Long before the stones were raised, and long after they settled into the earth, life continued around them. People lived nearby. They farmed the land, raised animals, crafted pottery, shaped tools, and buried their dead. Yet these same people also built one of the most complex structures of the ancient world. How did a community with simple homes and simple tools create a monument so advanced that modern engineers still study it today? The answer may lie not in the stones themselves, but in the builders who left no name behind. To understand them, we must picture the world as they saw it. Their lives were tied to nature. Seasons dictated survival. The sun, moon, and stars were not abstract symbols of science. They were guides, warnings, and sacred forces. When the sun rose or set in a specific place, it meant something. When shadows stretched at a predictable angle, it spoke of time. And perhaps that is why the builders of Stonehenge were so determined to anchor their world in stone. They lived in a time when knowledge was not written down. It was shared through stories, traditions, rituals, and apprenticeships. Each generation passed something to the next, not through books, but through practice. You learn by doing. You remember by repeating. You honor by creating. But what they created was beyond anything their world had seen before. Archaeologists have found traces of feasts, gatherings, and seasonal celebrations near Stonehenge. Evidence shows people travel from distant regions, bringing animals, bones, tools, and offerings. These gatherings were not small. They resembled grand assemblies, where entire communities came together for reasons still unknown. Perhaps they came to witness rituals. Perhaps they came to honor ancestors. Perhaps they came to take part in the building of something bigger than themselves. Whatever brought them there, these events reveal something important. The builders were not isolated. They were part of a network, a community stretching across different groups, sharing knowledge and resources. And with this network came the manpower needed to move the stones. Large groups working in coordination, skilled individuals guiding them, leaders choosing direction, teams taking on specific roles. This kind of social organization suggests a society not primitive, but advanced. A society that understood responsibility, roles, and shared purpose. But Where did these people come from? And why did they believe in a monument that demanded generations of labor? Recent discoveries give us a few hints. Human remains found near Stonehenge show signs of physical stress. Muscles built by heavy lifting, joints worn by repetitive motion. These were workers dedicated to constant labor. Yet they also show signs of healing. Bones set correctly, injuries treated, bodies cared for. This suggests a community that valued its workers, a society with healers, caretakers, and traditions of recovery, not a population forced into labor, but one united by something they believed in deeply. Their tools were simple: stone hammers, antler picks, wooden sledges, woven ropes. But in their hands, these basic tools became powerful. They shaped stone with precision. They measured distances with astonishing accuracy. They aligned structures with celestial patterns. And they did all of this without writing a single instruction down. Every step was memorized. Every technique practiced until perfect. Their knowledge lived through people, not paper. But even with their skills, a mystery remains. Their construction methods were advanced, but not impossible. Their planning was clever, but not supernatural. Yet the precision seen at Stonehenge seems to go beyond physical labor. The placement of each stone, the spacing between them, the angles measured against astronomical events, all point to knowledge that many believe should not exist in society without writing or mathematics as we know it. Did the builders understand geometry? Did they map the sky? Did they measure shadows? Or were they following instructions passed down from an even older culture, one lost to time? Some experts argue that ancient societies were more interconnected than we assume. Knowledge may have traveled across continents long before modern history acknowledges such contact. Traders, wanderers, storytellers, and craftsmen may have moved ideas from one land to another long before they wrote them down. Yet another possibility exists. Perhaps the builders discovered these principles themselves, through observation, through generations studying the sky at the same place, year after year, through rituals marking the solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. When you watch the sky long enough, patterns emerge. When those patterns hold meaning for survival, you learn them. You pass them to your children. And over many lifetimes, you build a legacy not written in ink, but carved in stone. But what motivated them? What belief was strong enough to justify building something that would take centuries to complete? Some of the bones found at the site belonged to people with unusual traits, individuals who may have been seen as leaders, healers, spiritual guides, or people with special knowledge. Perhaps these leaders inspired the monument. Perhaps they claimed to understand the sky, the seasons, or the afterlife. Perhaps Stonehenge began as a sacred promise, one that each generation felt duty-bound to fulfill. And yet, the builders remain nameless. No one knows what they called themselves. No one knows what language they spoke. No one knows what stories they told their children about the stones rising on the plain. The only voices that remain are the stones themselves, and even they speak in riddles. But one thing is clear. Whoever built Stonehenge was not simple or primitive. They were capable, intelligent, organized, and deeply connected to the world around them. They built a monument that outlived their homes, their tools, their traditions, and even their name. And in doing so, they left behind a message written not in words, but in endurance. Yet as impressive as the builders were, their efforts reveal something even more astonishing. The project required planning that stretched across time, far beyond the lifespan of any individual working on it. This means they built something for people they would never meet, a gift for the future, a message for generations unborn. What kind of belief inspires that level of commitment? What vision compels people to shape their world in stone, knowing they may never see the final result? The answer might lie in the third and most mysterious element of the Stonehenge story. When you stand inside the stone circle, something becomes immediately clear. This place was never meant to be ordinary. The alignment, the spacing, the shadows cast at sunrise and sunset, all hint at a purpose that reaches beyond simple ritual. This was a place where the sky touched the earth, a place designed not only for the living, but for the memories of those who had passed. And as we look closer, the arrangement of the stones begins to reveal a purpose far more complex than a monument or a gathering ground. It becomes a map, a calendar, a compass, and perhaps something more, a gateway between what humans understood and what they feared. Every major alignment of Stonehenge points to a moment of cosmic significance. The summer solstice sunrise illuminates the center of the circle. The winter solstice sunset slips neatly between specific stones, as if guided by invisible hands. These alignments would have been predictable only to a society that studied the sky with exceptional focus. And once you understand this, you realize that Stonehenge was not a random construction. It was a place built with intention, using knowledge of celestial movement that rivals ancient astronomers from cultures far more advanced on paper. But why? Why anchor a structure so heavily in the sky? Some believe Stonehenge was a ceremonial calendar, helping communities plan farming, hunting, and festivals. Others argue it served as a kind of prehistoric observatory, tracking the movement of the moon and stars. There's evidence suggesting lunar alignment, solar cycles, and even predictions of eclipses embedded in the stone layout. But for a society without written numbers or formal astronomy, how could this level of precision exist? One theory suggests Stonehenge functioned as a cosmic marker, a way to observe and predict the exact moments when the world shifted from one season to another. In an era where life hinged on timing, knowing when the cold would arrive, when the days would lengthen, and when the earth was ready to plant was a matter of survival. Stonehenge may have been the tool that kept communities alive, guiding them through the risky balance of nature. Yet another theory pushes deeper. Stonehenge may have been a ritual site dedicated to ancestors and the afterlife. Burial mounds and cremation pits around the site suggest a deep connection to death. Many ancient cultures believed the sun's path represented the soul's journey. If Stonehenge aligned with the sun's rise and fall, perhaps it was built to guide the dead to their own celestial passage, a place where rituals were performed to honor those who had left the world of the living, connecting them with cosmic cycles believed to govern existence. But the story becomes stranger when we consider the bluestones. Unlike the massive sarsens, the smaller bluestones were believed to have healing properties. Some archaeologists think Stonehenge was once a healing sanctuary, drawing people from distant lands seeking cures for illnesses or injuries. Combined with the observed remains showing signs of injuries cared for, this creates a picture of a place where physical and spiritual healing merged. A place not only of ritual, but of hope. Then comes a theory that shifts Stonehenge into an entirely different category, a meeting point, a hub for leaders, shamans, or ancient knowledge keepers. The idea suggests that Stonehenge was never about a single purpose. Instead, it was a multifunctional center where spiritual, astronomical, ceremonial, and social practices merged. A place where power was displayed, where knowledge was shared, where unity was celebrated, and where the sky and earth came together in a way no other monument captured. And yet, even these explanations fail to answer another question. Why did the builders choose this location? The Salisbury Plain seems ordinary, but when we examine the land itself, patterns emerge. The area is free of major obstacles. The horizon is wide. The land is flat enough to track the sun's movement with clarity. Underground, the chalk foundation is strong enough to support the weight of even the heaviest stones. In other words, the land was chosen with strategy. The builders understood what they needed for the monument to stand. They knew the ground. They knew the angles. They knew the sky above it. But Stonehenge was not only about what happened within its circles. Its purpose rippled outward, pathways leading to the river, wooden structures built nearby, secondary stone circles and burial grounds forming a vast ritual landscape. This entire region was transformed into something like a sacred center, a place where people came not only for ceremony, but for connection to each other, to their ancestors, to the cycles of time, to something bigger than the human world. Yet the more we uncover, the more one question keeps rising. Who taught them the knowledge needed to build something like Stonehenge? Did they learn through generations of observation? Did they copy an older monument now long lost? Or did they receive guidance from travelers whose identities vanished before history began? Some cultural traditions hint at legendary figures, wise individuals who shared knowledge of the stars, of seasons, of medicine. These figures appear in many ancient cultures around the world. Perhaps the Stonehenge builders had their own mysterious teachers. But what makes Stonehenge truly unusual is this. It was not built for a single era. It evolved over more than 1,000 years. That means the original purpose may not match the later one. The original builders may have intended something the later generations changed or expanded. A monument that began as a simple ritual site could have transformed into a solar calendar. Later, it might have become a burial ground. Later still, a ceremonial gathering place. Stonehenge is a story told in chapters, not a single moment. And yet, the final chapter remains unwritten. Because the moment society tries to pin down a purpose, the stones raise another question. And every question opens another possibility. Stonehenge does not reveal itself all at once. It reveals itself little by little, like a locked door that opens only when the right person turns the key. But here's the most unsettling idea of all. What if Stonehenge's true purpose is something we have not yet imagined? What if it was not only a calendar or a healing site or a ritual ground? What if it was a message, a reminder, a marker left behind for future generations? Something built not to be understood in the present, but in a faraway future where the tools of interpretation are finally ready. If Stonehenge was meant to speak to the future, then every stone, every alignment, every angle took on a meaning beyond ritual. It became a bridge between worlds separated not by distance, but by time, a message carried across centuries, waiting for someone to listen. And today, as we stand before those ancient stones, we realize something important. The builders of Stonehenge may be gone, but the questions they left behind remain alive. And those questions pull us forward, urging us to look deeper, because the answer may still be hidden in the stones, waiting patiently for us to uncover it. And so, after tracing every stone, every shadow, every clue left scattered across the plains, we find ourselves standing once more in the center of the circle. The wind moves softly between the towering monoliths, and for a moment, it feels as if the past is breathing beside us. But Stonehenge does not give us answers. It gives us possibilities. It reminds us that the people who walked this land thousands of years before us were not simple or lost. They were thinkers, builders, dreamers, and guardians of knowledge that has slipped through the cracks of history. What they built has outlived empires, kings, wars, and centuries that forgot their names. And still, their silence holds power. But the greatest mysteries are never solved in one moment. They wait, they watch, they shift in meaning as each generation discovers another layer. And just when you think the questions have ended, another one appears in front of you. A question that leads us far beyond the stones of Salisbury Plain. A question that points to another ancient monument, another puzzle carved into the earth, waiting quietly for someone to ask the right question. Because if Stonehenge could hide secrets for thousands of years, imagine what other mysteries the ancient world has kept buried in plain sight. And the next one may be even stranger than this.